Well, good morning. This is Assembly Member Shirley Weber, and I am representative of the 79th Assembly District, and I am so pleased to have you here and want to welcome you to our virtual back to school today. Probably if we had thought of this a year ago, we were thinking in this mode, we would have thought this would never possibly be possible, that all of you would be thinking more about the clothes that you're going to buy and the backpacks you're going to get and the friends that you're going to see when you start school again in person. But we know that these are difficult times and unusual times, and obviously we have to move forward in opening our schools the best way we can so that our students can get the instruction. I want to make sure that we thank a lot of folks who've helped to put this together. These kinds of things look like they're relatively simple, but they're really complicated. And so I always want to start off by thanking my staff, because sometimes we forget to thank those who work for us for the tremendous job they've done. Denise Green, Lachey Collins, I know Franklin Porter is a volunteer, and Dominique Williams is also one of those who are working on this, as well as my entire staff that works very hard on putting these kinds of events together. And thank all of you, our partners who with Cox and AT&T, as well as our county superintendent, Paul Gothel, who is also joining us today, and all the districts that are in the 79th Assembly District. It's unusual that a urban district has so many school districts within it, but we have about 5 or 6 actual school districts in the 79th Assembly District, and some overlapping districts as well. And so we are always pleased to work with our superintendents to make sure that we get the best that we can for all of the students and all the children in San Diego. We're currently, as pointed out, in hard times due to COVID-19. And to that point, we are forcing us to evolve, and it includes every institution that has to make change. I have not seen some of my staff personally in months, because we're all working remotely, and we meet on the internet and they get the job done. And I see papers and things slid in my office on my desk because I know that they're there. But I have not seen a couple of folks actually in person in a very long time, and have not touched any of my staff in a very long time, whether shaking hands or giving them a hug like I normally do. All of that has not happened since March. And so it's difficult times, but nonetheless, we're basically adjusting to it. Distance learning, for good or bad, is the future, obviously, of our educational system in a lot of ways. And so we look forward to what we can do in terms of bringing the best out of it, to making sure that all of our young people are getting the best that they can with regards to this distance learning that is there and the impact that's there. And we want to make sure that it doesn't impact the quality of the instruction that we're giving, or nor our expectations of students. I think when we first came out, we thought, well, 3 weeks lost won't be the end of the world, and we gave them a few things to take home. And then that mushroomed into another 6 weeks and into summer school. And now we're talking about possibly the entire year, not sure, depending on the virus and its impact on the schools and whether or not we can do those certain things. So all of those things are part of what we do. And so it's good to have you here with us today, and to make sure that we start the school year off in the right kind of way. We're pleased to have with us our state superintendent also, who will give us some information. We have, I said, our county superintendent who's here. We have our great partners in terms of AT&T and Cox that are here, who've been, interestingly enough, a key piece in schools reopening. Before that, they were just, we knew they were there. We knew they had services, and they were great partners. And most of us looked at it more as something for a movie to see on Saturday night, or just to get our normal television time in. But they have become major players in terms of making sure that our schools, that our young people have the kind of information they need. And this pandemic has exposed to us some real issues that we have. And so we're going to make sure that we're going to hear from them in terms of what they're doing, what their role is, and what you parents can expect, which is really important, because some of you know exactly what to do, and others are wondering what's going to happen, what's going to be available. And so we want to make sure that we give them an opportunity to talk about the new partnership that's there and see the kinds of things that are a part of it. We're going to break off into sessions, because we know that you want to interact with your own district. And because some of you have children in more than one district, you have an elementary district and a high school district, we're going to make sure that the information in wherever chat room you decide to go into, that information will also be available to you to have at other times. We have with us, as I said, our Congresswoman, Susan Davis, who's with us today. I'm going to give an opportunity just to have a couple of seconds of welcome so that she can, you can see our Congresswoman is equally concerned about our schools. Fortunately, I had the good fortune of working with her for, I don't know, 4 years or more in San Diego Unified School District. We were on the school board together. So I know that education is her heart and her passion. And so excited that she heard about this and decided she wanted to at least come in and say hello to us. So Susan, thank you for taking your Saturday morning and welcome to this virtual town hall. You have to unmute yourself.
Here, okay, I thought y'all were doing that. Thank you so much. It's really delightful for me to be here. And when I heard, Shirley, that you were doing this, Madam Chairwoman and Assemblywoman, Dr. Weber, I just knew that I would learn something from it because I know that that's really what you're about, and trying to really provide this link for families is wonderful. And I love the way you've organized it as well. I just wanted to very, very briefly share with all of our constituents because Dr. Weber and I share many, many constituents in the 53rd and in the Assembly District, just to share my utmost frustration and grave concern that the Congress has not responded adequately to this pandemic and the needs of schools, the needs of our children, the needs of our families. And there's just no way to sugarcoat that. We did pass over 90 days ago in the House the HEROES bill, which actually targets specifically many of the concerns that we're having today. Had that passed and had the Senate dealt with that, we would be looking at billions of dollars for schools, for state and local, and really addressing the needs that are out there in our communities. And we're still working on it, of course, but I just had to let people know how frustrated I am. But I'm pleased and delighted to join you today and to listen to the questions that everyone has. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Congresswoman Susan Davis. We know your heart is always with the schools and with our community, and so we're always pleased to know that you're our Congressman in Washington. And Congresswoman Susan Davis has decided to retire at the end of this term, so we're going to miss that energy and that force that's been there for, I don't know, maybe 20 years now or more. And so it's great to know that we had a voice there who really had a passion for education. So Susan, thank you for taking a part of your time. She heard about it and wanted to be with us, and I'm just pleased that she did. We are, at this time, we have with us the State Superintendent of Instruction. And I'm sure when Mr. Thurmond ran for the Superintendent of Public Instruction, he had no idea that this would be waiting around the corner for him to jump on him. And so surely it has, but he's been up to the task. And I know he spends lots of time working on all these issues because he has a unique way of roping me into his committees and commissions and getting me engaged because he knows my passion. So Tony, thank you so very much for being here with us this morning, and we want to hear what's happening at the state level. We have with us our State Superintendent, Tony Thurmond.
Dr. Weber, I believe he may have stepped off for a second, or we lost connection with him.
Okay, he'll be back, hopefully. One of the great things of Zoom is that we can get people from all over the world to come in, and they don't have to pay for a ticket or a hotel room. But one of the challenges also is that sometimes Zoom zooms away from us, and we have to try to catch it and bring it back. But he'll be back on. I know he was on earlier, and it may have been something that at the Capitol that he had to respond to, but as soon as he's back, we'll let him on and let him have a few words to say with regards to what's happening in the state. Okay. I'm in a view only screen. Okay. So Mr. Thurmond is there?
We will take care of that.
So he can speak though. If he wants to talk now, he can, because I know he has a very busy schedule. Okay.
I don't think he can, but I'll get him that link.
Not able to speak. Okay, for whatever reason. Okay, he's not. He's in the chat box. Oh, okay.
We'll, if you continue, we'll get it to him, and he'll pop right back on.
Sounds good. Okay, we'll look forward to it. At this time, we want to bring on just for a couple of minutes. Superintendent Paul Gothel, who is our county superintendent, who wants to give us some introductory comments about what the partnerships that have been developed around the issue of distance learning. Paul is a strong advocate for diversity and equity in our county. We're very fortunate to have him as our county superintendent. I've enjoyed working with him every moment that he's been in San Diego. And so, Paul, thank you so very much. I know we're taking up a bit of your Saturday, but thank you for joining us this morning. Thank you. Paul Goethel, our county superintendent.
Thank you, Dr. Weber. And the feeling is mutual. We appreciate and thank you so much for your leadership, for pulling this together. The more communication we have with our families and districts, the better. And thank you, Congresswoman Davis. We met recently, and she sent a Dear Colleague letter that really focuses on some of the things our office has made a priority in universal feeding and just being able to give kids food who need it, regardless of the application process, everything. So thank you as well. I just want to introduce a simple concept that we've been working on. You know, when we shifted to distance learning in March, what we experienced were so many of our families that just simply did not have the bandwidth, internet to participate in some of the learning opportunities. And this was obviously tragic. We shifted to doing home visits and things of that nature and patchwork to the best of our ability. But what we realized is that we needed to make internet access just a basic right, just like electricity, just like water. And so with that, and I do want to, commend Cox up front. I don't want to steal their thunder, but what we experienced is many of our families who were struggling with economic insecurity and going through the application process and some of the programs that existed, whether because of documentation status or fear of income verification, simply just did not get connected. And so what we did was approach our providers. And long story short, the districts now, and we negotiated on behalf of all 42 in our charter schools, the districts now can become the intermediary or contractor with our providers. And so once the district identifies students in need, what we can do is get them connected directly. There's no paperwork, there's no application. And through the CARES money, through mitigation, learning loss, and everything that Dr. Weber and Congresswoman Davis have fought for, we can use that money to provide Wi-Fi in the homes, $9 a month. We pay for the family in lieu of all of the other red tape. It's an extraordinary step in the right direction. I can't thank Cox enough for their flexibility in doing this. And for those individuals and families and kids that have shelter insecurity or maybe mobile, we've contracted with Verizon, same thing. We can offer hotspots now to our kids, $9 a month, and we can take care of this for our families during these unprecedented times. I know, Dr. Weber, this isn't part of your jurisdiction, but in the rural counties, we're also working with SpaceX, and for some of our Indian reservations, our goal is to get 100% of our kids connected, sooner the better. And so 12 agencies have already set up MOUs, 12 districts that is. We're working on all 42 in all of our charters. We're going to do whatever it takes to make sure our kids have this basic right and they can participate in all of the wonderful activities that are going on in these unprecedented and imperfect times. So I thank you.
Dr. Goethel, thank you so much. And this is why he's one of my favorite county superintendents. He's the only one I know, so he has to be my favorite county superintendent. But to basically talk about paying for internet for families that can't afford it, and seeing that as an integral part of our CARES Act and the resources that we provide is so very, very essential. And hopefully is a model for those up and down the state, because we cannot allow our kids to not have what they need to learn. That's very fundamental. We cannot allow that to happen. And so someone asked once, what district? Dr. Goethel is the entire county. So if you are in the 79th, if you're in the 80th, if you're in the 77th, all of these assembly districts and congressional districts of 52 and 51 and on, rest assured that he is your county superintendent. And he works on behalf of all the children in San Diego County and really all the kids in the state. And so, as he said, he was dealing with rural districts. He knows my passion goes for all kids, because we have to educate every child in order to basically educate our own, to ensure that the world will be better, not because just our children got something, but because every kid gets something in California. And that's our security as a nation and as a state, to make sure we leave no children behind. I'm pleased that my superintendent of public instruction is back on the line with us. Sorry, I don't know what happened, but you've been on enough Zoom and that I've been on enough Zooms to know that there is no logic behind whatever took place. We just sometimes roll with the punches, and sometimes we can hear and sometimes we can't. And who knows why, but more importantly, you are back. Thank you so very much for taking your Saturday morning, and you can share with us what's happening up and down the state. I hope you heard what Dr. Gothel said about them doing internet for everybody in San Diego County through the CARES Act and helping those families who can't afford it. So that is so important and so wonderful, and that's why I said he's my favorite county superintendent, because he really gets in and makes sure that our students have what they need. We're pleased this morning to have with our state superintendent of public instruction, Tony Thurmond. Tony, thank you for being here, and the floor is yours. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Dr. Weber. It's really an honor to be with the 79th Assembly District. Thank you for doing this back to school event. School, as you know, is always a time for excitement and some anxiety. I can't imagine what parents and families must be feeling right now, trying to imagine going back to school under the conditions that we currently face. And I am grateful that 97% of our school districts have decided to do the right thing and open with safety first as the first priority, and by opening in distance learning. We know it's not perfect, but it will keep our students safe while we continue to monitor the conditions. I did get to hear Dr. Gothold in his presentation. He's my favorite county superintendent too. That's going to get me in trouble with about 57 other people, but that's okay. He's doing the right thing. And I share the comments that he's made about Cox. As we have been working with our digital task force on closing the digital divide, I'll be honest, we've had to push some of the ISPs more than others. That is not the case about Cox. They are already leaning in, especially on the school districts that are in San Diego County. I'm grateful for them as a partner. Their scale's a little different than other internet service providers. They might be smaller than others, but what they've done is much bigger than others to make sure that students have access to high-speed internet that they can afford. And so I'm grateful for the works of Cox. I'm grateful for your work, Congresswoman. Thank you for leading our California congressional delegation. We could not do the things that we are prepared to do without the support of our California congressional delegation and the CARES Act. As Superintendent Gotheld talked about, the legislature, the governor has provided $5.3 billion to support distance learning. That money can be used for devices. That money can be used for social emotional learning supports. And it can also be used for professional development for our educators to make sure that online learning has the best and the maximum experiences that we can. And so our office has been in touch with every district to let them know exactly how much money they get out of that allocation. We've also pulled in a lot of the manufacturers and internet companies to say, we know that there aren't any devices anywhere in the nation. There's a run on devices worldwide. And so, we've been able to partner with companies like Apple and T-Mobile, who put together a special deal for California students to get a discounted device with internet capability, and it's at the same price of what Dr. Gothhold just said. We're talking about internet for about $10 a month, and then a high-functioning computing device. So any districts that are still trying to get computing devices, we ask you to take advantage of this product. It can work across all platforms. It doesn't matter if you don't use Apple, you can use it on any platform, because we heard loud and clear that many districts just couldn't, many of them are on backlog, or they're waiting and they're being told that they have to wait until October or November or December to get Chromebooks. I personally think it's not fair for us to ask our students to wait until November for a device. And so we made this our last push to say, hey, what stop is available? And these companies have said, we have a couple 100,000 devices that we're going to go to other people. We're going to now give them to California students and prioritize them. And so that's still available. Anybody who wants help, you got questions on how to access that, just send us a note at digitaldivide.cde.ca.gov, or call Dr. Weber's office, and Dr. Weber, your staff can certainly contact our office. We'll be happy to work with you. In my estimation, as we go forward, we have to really be thinking about safety. And then there are all kinds of rules for when schools can reopen and when it's safe to do so. In the meantime, I think we have to really think about social emotional learning needs of our students. How do we make sure that they get access to good counselors? And by the way, I think if we do distance learning right, we can support the social emotional learning needs of our students. They need to see the faces of their teachers and their one-to-one support staff. And so that means we have to have live instruction. We've been working with school districts and CTA and others to say, look, live instruction is important. We're not saying kids have to be in front of their computer all day for the whole day, but they do have to have live instruction. And students who have disabilities, they must continue to have their needs met, guided by their IEP, and continue to have assessments and supports and hearing from their one-on-one. And so right now we're just leaning in. We're rolling out a new program with Assemblymember Weber that's focused on family engagement. We heard from a lot of families, Ed Trust West and PK. You were on a couple of meetings with us when we met with PK, and thank you, Dr. Weber, for helping us with our conversations about how do we offset any learning loss and learning gaps that come from being in remote learning. And one of the things that we've learned is that families are often just not connected. And if they don't have a computer, we can't ask families to email a school district to get information. And so what we're asking districts to do, create a phone hotline where there's someone who will answer those calls, where there's bilingual staff who can support our families. And so we're going to keep working with all of our school districts. They're incredible, the hard work that they're doing. Our principals, incredible. I've been on 2 Zooms this week for my own kids, back to school events. And I got to tell you, Dr. Weber, I'm impressed with what the principals were doing, but I could just see how difficult this really is on everybody. I mean, kids were asking every 30 seconds, hey, when's my school going to open? We even had students who were kind of Zoom bombing the Zoom. And I thought, it's a little bit disruptive, but I thought, you know what? They could have been anywhere. They chose to want to still be with us for 2 hours on the Zoom bombing, right? And so my point is that we're going into a difficult position, but if we do things together, we will get through it. And I just want to commend students, and I know you always have student speakers and parents and educators and administrators and superintendents and the legislature, everybody coming together to make this happen. The Department of Education stands by to do what we can to support families and to support our students and to support our partners. So please let us know how we can be helpful.
I want to thank you, Superintendent Thurman. You've been an amazing partner with all of us and done a great job in terms of making sure that not only the teachers and the administrators, but the parents and the young people are engaged. And that's really important because there are a lot of things happening with our young people, and we can't just pretend that they go away simply because the school doors have locked in some ways, but we have to make sure that we're still meeting their needs and hearing what they have to say, because just because COVID has come along doesn't mean that all the problems they had beforehand and all the concerns that they've had with family or with themselves have gone away. In fact, sometimes they're even intensified because of the fact that now they have home and don't have school as a place of shelter and as a place of support. So we have to provide that kind of support and shelter for them while we're doing so. I want to thank my superintendent, state superintendent, for being here. Appreciate working with you. We have a lot of work to do, we know, and it never stops. But we will get the job done, and our schools are struggling with it and working with it and trying to make it happen. And I think our parents are too. So I as a grandparent, I think I've probably been volunteered to do homeschooling for my 2 grandkids when the session is over. I'm hoping not, but nonetheless, these are things that even my family has to face if the school doesn't open in the fall, that there'll be lots of homeschooling and they're missing their friends like everybody else is. So those kinds of things are really real and important for our kids, and we're working on it. Going to do some exciting, hopefully the 79th is going to do some exciting things. I'm going to former teachers who are now retired to hopefully step in and fill in the gap with those kids who are not turning on their Chromebooks, who are not being visible, who are not there in school. We also plan to do our attendance challenge this year, because we don't want this to be, we don't want people to think that this is not real school. So we're going to, at the end, I'll give you information about what we're going to do next week in terms of giving out all our medallions for students who had perfect attendance this past year. And we're going to encourage them to have perfect attendance during this Zoom period, whether they're physically at school or out of school, they got to check in every day. So in order to have perfect attendance, and we want them to know this is real school. This is not play. This is what they're supposed to be getting. So once again, thank you for being here with us. Appreciate it, Tony, for taking some of your Saturday to be with us. I know you're very, very busy, and there's a lot to be done. We're going to move to those who we've heard a lot about what's happening with Cox. And I'm going to move to Cassandra Wineland. As the old folks would say, I know your ears are burning because they're talking about you. And so we're glad to have Cox with us at this time. They're going to explain to us what Cox is able to do. Some of you had some questions in chat about who applies and how do you get these things. But we're going to have Cox here to talk to us, and then after Cox, we're going to have AT&T. And then we'll have some questions that you sent in answered before we go into the chat rooms. So I want to introduce Cassandra Wineland from Cox Communications. I think.
Thank you, Dr. Weber, and thank you to your staff for putting together such a great event. This is so important to our students, and I cannot thank your team enough, so thank you for all of that. I do want to hand this over to our Digital Divide Liaison, Adriana Mendoza. She is working boots on the ground with every school district in our footprint, every student, every family who needs assistance, and we could not do this great work without her. So Adriana, I'll hand it over to you.
Thanks, Cassandra, and thanks everyone for having us here. I will go ahead and share my screen, but just like everyone was mentioning, we are very proud to be working very closely with the school districts, not just in San Diego, but in California where we have service. We do have our Connect to Compete program, which is our low-cost internet program for $9.95 per month, which allows high-speed internet in the home. So with it in the $9.95 per month includes your equipment, which is a modem router, which will give you in-home Wi-Fi access. With the program, you basically don't require to have deposits. There's no contracts. It includes free installation. Currently, we are doing the 2 free months for participants that enroll between July 21st and September 30th. To qualify for the program, you do have to have a child that's in K through 12, which I think most of the people that are on this, town hall today are eligible in that case. And you do need to be participate in either the free national free or reduced lunch or another government program, which is listed here. And there's more information on our website. I won't go into every detail because we'll share that information with you all. We'll send it out. But as mentioned, this is just for any customer that qualifies. You can do this on your own today, and you can apply online. The application is mobile optimized, so you can do it from any smartphone in case you don't have internet in the home. So you can do that today. But part of what's happening since COVID happened, and like both of the county superintendent and the state superintendent mentioned, Cox has been working on Connect to Compete since 2012, and it's something that we've always done because it's the right thing to do. But when COVID happened, we realized this is now a unique situation and we need to do more. So we did create a process to work directly with the school districts. So like I know some of the parents were chatting and asking questions. You can work directly with your school, approach them and let them know if you need internet in the home, and if you qualify. They are working closely with us, providing us a list of parents, families that qualify. We'll pre-qualify the families and work with the school district to allow them the ability to pay for the families that they are able to cover. So I would encourage you in that aspect to work directly with your school. Let them know that you are in need of internet or a device. And we also have device partners that can help with low-cost devices like Computers to Kids. But if you wanted to do it on your own because you say, I can afford the $9.95, I don't need the school to pay for it, but I still do qualify, it's a very simple process. You go online to our website. Again, it is mobile optimized, so you can do it from a smartphone, cox.com/C2C, which stands for Connect to Compete. It's a very easy process. You just enter some basic information. You can do the application in English or Spanish. You start with just entering your address to ensure you're in our service area and that we can provide you the service. If that is the case, then you'll move on to the next process and just start entering some very basic information. Again, our service does not require you to have a social security number. It doesn't require security deposits. There's no contracts. You can apply and have the program. You can leave it anytime that you want. It's a very simple process. And again, for the families that right now are in serious need of internet for school and you can't afford to pay, don't be discouraged. You can work with your school districts directly, and they are helping with covering that cost. There is also the opportunity to work with our nonprofit partners, such as Computers to Kids, that are actually offering low-cost equipment, such as desktops and laptops. we are working very closely with them as well. So again, work with your school districts directly, but if you now today can afford one on your own and you want to just get this going, you can reach out to Computers to Kids, C2, what are they, c2sd.org, or we'll send all of this information out. And I apologize, I don't want to be talking too fast, but I know there's a lot to cover. We just want you to know that we are here, that we do hear you, and that we are a partner that you can count on to support the community. So please drop your questions in the chat box and I will be happy to answer them on behalf of Cox. Thank you, and I will pass it on to AT&T.
Great. We have with us AT&T for John Osborne, who's going to talk about the services that AT&T are providing. John, thank you for being here this morning.
You're welcome. So I'm pinch hitting for Christine Moore, my colleague who handles City of San Diego and the South Bay. But we both cover the same information, so I'm happy to step in today. I'm glad to see that Tony Thurmond is here and Susan Davis, and thank you, Dr. Weber, for putting this together. You know, we talk about internet as a basic right, and if it was an easy problem, it would have been solved a long time ago. AT&T is the carrier of last resort in the state of California, and so we don't just serve isolated pockets where we have franchise agreements, but we serve, you know, the last person on the mountaintop in Mount Palomar to Fallbrook, all the way down to the Mountain Empire school districts. And so AT&T has had a program called Access, and I'm going to share my screen now and see if I can get this up. There we go. And we've had the Access program for some time. We have stepped it up during the events of recent months with COVID. We understand that 97% of the California schools are engaged in some form of distance learning. We had the Access program available to people who were on the Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program, and we've expanded that now to include the National School Lunch Program. So that's the household can get internet for $10 a month, and it's everywhere we provide DSL or our high-speed internet services. We don't have it everywhere. It's not a ubiquitous product. It's something that requires a lot of investment, and particularly requires a lot more investment when you get to rural areas, which is why the California Public Utilities Commission and the federal government are both trying to provide dollars to put into the system for people to serve internet in those far-reaching places. So we've been working with elected officials and our community leaders and superintendents to get the word out on this program. We have information available in English and in Spanish. We do provide the service with no installation costs, and it does include a Wi-Fi router, and there's no overages for data. So, and in addition, if we have the ability to increase the speed, which the standard speed that comes with this product is 10 megabits per second, families are eligible for a free upgrade up to 25 megabits per second. Again, there's no fee, no deposit, no contract, and we're happy to provide that to anywhere where we currently serve high-speed internet. So we've been promoting the Access program through a variety of different means, through advertising, media campaigns, on social media, and then also working with our communities to have them share the information, and also our employees, 30,000 strong in California, getting the word out through their network. So we're trying to share this information widely and broadly, and make it available to anybody who would like to take advantage of it. As I mentioned, we have flyers available, digital and printed. We have them in English and Spanish, so I'm happy to provide those to anybody who would like that. I I'm sure that Christina has shared those with Dr. Weber's staff, but I'm happy to provide those if you don't have those, and we can get those over to you today if needed. I wanted to say that you can sign up for this via an 800 number. Not everybody, if you don't have internet, of course, you can't do it online. And so they can call an 800 number and we can walk families through the process. And we're also happy to work with the school districts. And I'm not sure if at this point we have formally completed a way for the school districts to purchase on behalf of their students, but I'm certain that if we don't have it today, that we're working on that, and we'll have that shortly. What I don't have in this presentation that I'm happy to share today is AT&T also has a wireless offer now. And so we will work with the school districts on that. That information was shared with all of the superintendents in the last week, and they can get Wi-Fi, a MiFi device, and wireless internet through AT&T, and that would all come through the school district. We're happy to engage on that as well. But that is a new program just announced last week. And if you haven't got that information, Dr. Gothold, we're happy to share that and make sure that that gets out to all the school districts. And if they don't have landline-based internet, there's certainly an opportunity for us to provide wireless service through AT&T and provide those same benefits. So that's what I have today, and thanks for your time, and thanks for giving us the opportunity to share.
Well, thank you very much, John, for pinch hitting today. Thank you so very much for being with us today. At this time, we're going to open up our time for questions, as some of you may have sent in some questions, and we'll take about 15 to 20 minutes to deal with some questions that have come in that are concerning obviously the issues that have been raised so far with regards to access to technology and those kinds of services that are really important, as well as opening schools. So we have some general questions that have come in. We're going to try to answer some of those who are online with me now, Cox and AT&T. And I'm not sure if our state superintendent is still there or not, but I think he's probably gone. But the county may be there. May be some questions for the county as well. But in any event, and we'll see who's around to answer some of these questions. And then we're going to get some information about going into the chat room, because some of you have some questions directly related to your districts, and that will be important. The first question we have is, if the California Department of Public Health recommends ages 2 and up to wear a face mask, then why are you only requiring students 3rd grade and higher to wear a mask? If schools open up and I send my kindergarten to class with a mask, I'm not going to feel comfortable if others in our class are not wearing a mask also. I think when you get to your room, you may find out that some of the schools are requiring that all children wear masks. They're a little bit stricter on those at the upper grades, because they know kindergartners have a tendency to struggle with these masks and keeping them on. But I know that some of the schools that I've talked to are actually requiring masks for everyone. They have certain times that all kids have to wear masks and certain times that they don't. And most of the time when they're interacting with others or out to play, they have to wear masks. When they're walking around the classroom, some of the rules show that they have to wear a mask. So it varies. It doesn't vary that much, but there may be a little bit more flexible with those who are TK and kindergartners with regards to the mask on their face and keeping it on all day. But I know all the schools are supposedly practicing social distancing. I'm not sure if anyone else on the line want to answer part of that question. We know wearing a mask is important. And I think the state everyone seems to be emphasizing that. It's hard to keep them on little kids, but anyone over 2 is supposed to wear a mask in public. And there's some flexibility, I understand, in the classrooms for those who are a little bit younger. I was trying to see if someone else had chimed in, but I guess not. Let's move on to question number 2. How will teachers be flexible with students whose parents are working at home and may not be able to help them during a live instruction? We're going to have those are questions really for, they had left the AT&T and everybody else here. But those are really questions for the schools themselves. The assumption is that while parents are working at home, that at home and kids are there, that parents should not have to quote unquote overly supervise their kids if the lessons are engaging, and should be available if the child becomes stuck on something, but hopefully not. And they should be able to make sure that they're on, that the lessons are being taken, and their teachers should be on there helping them if they need help. Hopefully that distance learning will not just be watching a screen, but really the teacher interacting with the students. And I've been in a couple of meetings with folks who've talked about that it should be interactive. I'm not sure if our superintendent had anything to add to that with regards to the rules about wearing masks, as well as flexibility with regards to students whose parents are working.
Thank you, Dr. Weber. I didn't hear all the question. I dropped off for a moment, but at this point, the California Department of Public Health has put out an order that all students and staff shall wear a mask. Now, the Department of Public Health has created a sort of a cutoff, and if you are, I believe it's second grade and younger, not required, but should when possible, or there is not the possibility for physical distancing. I'll be honest, Dr. Weber, what we've said at the California Department of Education is that all students and all staff of all ages should wear a face covering at all times. And I think that's supported by new research that has come out that has shown that younger and younger children are in fact developing COVID. And that right now, I saw a report this week that 97,000 students in the country, young people, have contracted COVID. And so that tells me that a lot of the science has not been settled, and that there's not a lot of data out there. I think that at this point, we really should be asking all adults and children to wear a face covering out of an abundance of caution, just to be safe. And school districts have been provided with personal protective equipment. So if a student doesn't have a mask or has forgotten one, the school can provide it. The legislature and the governor, thank you, Dr. Weber, for this. And Congresswoman, the money comes from the CARES Act, have ensured that personal protective equipment have gone to all of our 10,000 schools, at least for the first 2 months when we open in person. And so that's the recommendation that we're making. Everyone should wear a face covering at all times.
Right, and I've heard several schools have talked about that if especially if they're coming in contact with others walking around the classroom, some argue that if they're at their desk and they're not going to move, they can lower their mask a little bit. But knowing our kids and their tremendous interest in interacting with each other, I would strongly recommend that a child wears a face mask, and as much as possible. We can't overemphasize the importance of it, and as you pointed out, all the research shows us now that that's going to happen. That's going to be there. We have another question. I was trying to look at the other questions. We had another question the next question, I think it was. Some schools are concerned they want a third option. Well, this is a better one though, CBOs. Will the school district extend its support for CBOs to work directly with low-income, Latinx, African American, and Asian Pacific Islander students with distance learning? So this is an interest with CBOs being able to work with these students. I don't know if there's a restriction on our community-based organizations working with our schools. There's always some rules and regulations concerning volunteers and filling out forms, and we make sure that those who are interacting with our students are really people who we want to interact with our students. But whether or not they are new and being allowed in, they've always been allowed to have some input. And I think this will be very important for those CBOs who really want to work with kids, to make sure they're motivated, make sure they have what they need, make sure if there isn't a parent who can be helpful, that they find tutors and support for those young people. Getting out of this COVID and getting through our schools is going to require the tremendous energy and help of everybody. And I keep telling people that all the time, that just because a kid's on the internet, they still need help. Their parents may be away at school all day. And you know that as an adult. Now's your time to step up and be that adult in that young person's life, because it's going to take all of us to do whatever we need to do to get our kids through this very difficult time. And I'm hoping that people are prepared to step up and to be a part of it. I don't know if anyone else had any other comments concerning CBOs. I think it should apply to every student, whether it's low income or not. Low income kids definitely need a lot more help and support, but we've discovered that a lot of times there's some social emotional things that are happening with kids who are not low income that the schools are unaware of, and that various agencies and organizations can step in and help, and that will be important. I know there's a number of them listed on websites now and internet in terms of health and mental health services and counseling and all those kinds of things. They should all still be available to you and your child. Okay, do we have any other question? You want to bring up the other question? This is concerning options, and can a third option be offered when in-person instruction begins? Continue distance learning as a third option. The online option is not a viable option. It does not offer all the AP classes needed and the club participation as robotics, Kiwanis, and engineering clubs. Zoom can be used or cameras by teachers when teaching in classrooms. So folks want to know if there's more than one option. Those are some of the things the districts are grappling with. Keep in mind that most of our districts have only been dealing with this for the last few months. And so their main focus is trying to get every child what the most basic needs. And then after that, we do have those things that deal with clubs and organizations, and can Zoom be utilized for that after school activities that are there. But it's going to really require the energy of all of us. And many parents want a third option because if AP classes are not available, this may be a unique opportunity where we have talked for years about AP classes not being in poor neighborhoods and poor communities and not enough students to take AP. And so I guess if some of our districts start offering AP online, that would be an opportunity for students who don't have AP classes or don't have a wide variety of AP classes to be able to participate. But I think you raised an important issue. Like I said, out of this pandemic should come something really good, like options for instruction, so that there are some things that we can share across districts that one district doesn't have, the other one has. And so it makes it possible to students to learn Latin, even though their school doesn't offer Latin. I mean, we should be prepared to take the best of what we learn from this distance learning and utilize it every day in our schools. And so that gives me hope that we're going to learn something that's going to be helpful and impactful for all of us, not just those kids who are there. You know, I'm excited that parents are learning something about the internet and more than just what they normally do. I mean, I have had family members who, for the first time, had to go get an internet device because that's the only way they could go to church. And so that was exciting and interesting because I had a sister who still had a flip phone at $19.95 a month. And now she has a smartphone and an iPad. I mean, you know, welcome to the real world. I mean, so it's been good to see that at least some of this technology is working in a way that we hadn't anticipated. Let me see, is there another question? Is there another question for us? It says, this year my son is enrolled. He's enrolled in high school at Kearney. What do we need to know? We're receiving information in the mail. I have not received it. That's what you're going to get in the chat. When you go into the chat, you're going to go into the chat that deals with San Diego Unified School District. And they should be able to give you all the information that you're going to need and instructions that you need to have in order to start the school. That's one of the reasons why we have these chat groups broken out, because of the fact that we want to make sure that you get access to all of the things that are available. We're getting ready to move into our breakout sessions, and I want to thank all of our panelists who've been here to talk about the big picture of services and resources that are available. And we're going to, in our chat room, Lynn is going to explain to us how this process works. But I just want to make sure that we express to all of those who've been on the morning session that that your input has been extremely invaluable. And I know that that this has been a hard work for all of you, and you've been great partners, the AT&T and the Cox and our county superintendent. You guys have had to work miracles in a short period of time, and you've just about there finishing with the miracle. We're just about there. But I want to remind you of that. Also, some of the parents asked in one of the chat was about, and you'll hear about it, next weekend is our attendance drive, where we are going to celebrate finally the students who had perfect attendance last year. And it'll be a Zoom event. We have some students to speak and what have you. But in addition to that, you will get your certificates. We are going to have all the certificates at the schools so that you can go by the school and pick up your certificate and your medallion. Because students have made very clear to me that they want their medallion and their certificate for their perfect attendance during this very difficult year. So we have we have the list. You should get a notice, letter letting you know that your medallion and material should be available to you at your school. We'll have a program, so check my website. We have a special program next week for all of you who had perfect attendance in 2019-2020 school year. We're also kicking off our perfect attendance for 2020-2021. We're not giving up on you. You're not going to get a pass. You're not going to get some slack because of the difficulty in life. Because if I give you slack, then you're going to pay for it later on, because the world does not give you slack. I can tell you that now. They're going to have the same requirements for you as we're going to have. And most of you know, I don't give up on you. So I'm going to demand perfect attendance, and we're going to celebrate you. And as I always say, if the Lord willing and the creek don't rise, we will be at SeaWorld next year to celebrate the 2021 year. And we're going to see if we can also loop in 2019, because you guys did not get your free trip to SeaWorld and participate. And so SeaWorld was sad about it. Cox, as a partner, was sad about it. But we're going to see if we can grab you for that, as well as, if all things go well, we'll be at our huge celebration next year. Last year, we had over 1,000 kids in the 79th had perfect attendance for the whole year. And we started off with 300, and now we're over 1,000. And so we want to keep that moving, because attendance and school attendance is critical to kids being successful. I want to thank all of the partners who joined me today in kicking off this. Going back to school is an important event. I hope you guys are ready. Your energy's up. You miss your friends, and I know you miss your teachers, and you surely miss your homework. And so we want to make sure that we do everything we can to hopefully keep you engaged and having fun. This is extremely important. You know, I tell students, when I was in the 7th grade, I had a 7th grade teacher who did not teach us. And I was in a gifted class, didn't teach us. And so we spent a whole year without actual instruction. This person came in every day and just talked. He didn't teach us. At the end of that year, we went to the 8th grade. And I had a teacher named Mrs. Williams who was very concerned about us. And Mrs. Williams knew that we had not been taught all year long. So she tested us and discovered that we had not. She called in our parents, and we had a come to Jesus meeting with our parents and us. And you know what she told us? She said, you didn't get 7th grade, but you're going to get it. And so she made us learn all of our 7th grade lessons in one semester. We had homework every night, lots of homework, and on weekends and holidays. And at the middle of 7th grade in January, we had finished the 8th grade. We had finished our 7th grade curriculum. She tested us. We were fine. Then we had to learn all of the 8th grade curriculum in the next 5 months. And so she taught us 2 years of English in 1 year, because she cared about us. And we were angry, of course, because we're kids. We didn't want to do all that homework. In the end, when I got to the 9th grade and 10th grade, I realized how valuable her concern and love was for us, that she did not want us to miss a year of school. Even, she didn't say the person was horrible, he didn't teach you, it's not my fault, and you guys came here behind. She knew that, but she caught us up. And to this day, I remember that teacher of all of the middle school teachers, because she cared enough to work us so hard, because she didn't want us to have any academic loss, no gaps. And so that's what we're trying to do, to make sure there are no gaps, that we're expecting you to take this as seriously as we are, that this is real school, and that you're going to be there every day. You're going to do your homework. You're going to engage with your teacher and your friends. And when you come back to walk into the building, you will not have lost anything. In fact, you may even be smarter, because you had such attention given to you in a very specialized way in this very difficult time. And so we want you to know this is important. So I want to thank all of our partners who came here today. Thank my superintendent from SAC, who's online, my county superintendent, my Congresswoman Susan Davis. All of these folks have come because they believe this is extremely important. And I hope we motivated those who are participants. We have had over 400 participants on this call, and they're there eagerly waiting to go into the chat rooms. But I want to thank you for taking your Saturday morning, because this is serious business. And my staff is always available in the district office. We may not physically be there, but if you call, you'll get one of us to basically answer your questions, to continue to engage, and to make sure that everything that we do is in the best interest of you. So thank all of you who joined me this morning. I'm going to turn it over to Lynn, who's going to explain to the parents how to get in the chat. And I know this will be great. I'm going to roam through chats myself, but I hope you will all enjoy what you hear, the kinds of things. And generally what we do is, once we go through this process, And if we discover that there's some things that we still need to know, some things we still need to do, the good thing is that we can do these town halls. We can still do them. We can come back and have different kinds of conversations and dialogues as it goes along. This is not a one and done where I just drop it and move on. This is our third, I think, town hall dealing with schools. We'll have one next week. And then we're going to make sure that as this rolls out, that if there's still some glitches and some needs that we need to work on, we're committed to doing that to make sure that this is as smooth a year as possible for our children, and that it's exciting and they get the information they need. So once again, thanks all of you for joining me. I'm turning it over to Lynn, who's now is going to take us into the discussions of the chat rooms and how they work this magic with all these chat rooms. I have no idea, but I believe it happens like magic. And so our magician, Lynn, is here to make sure that we get in the right places.